Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's Zach, and I'm here with the one and only Foots the King. And before we get started, Foots, how are we doing, sir?
It was a action-packed weekend as far as us draft nerds, right? Zach, we've literally went through every part of the process. We went to the combine. Well, we didn't go to the combine. Maybe next year, Zach will go to the combine, but we went to the Senior Bowl. And so when we see things like Jalen Lane blazing, when we see things like Max Hairston blazing, we're like, yo, Zach, we were sitting in the stands watching these guys. We were watching Jaden Higgins run routes. We were watching Jalen Noel, who had a great workout, the reps on the bench press workout. The process is really it's been a great process this year.
Like we were talking about pre-show, something about going to the Senior Bowl, seeing these guys out here on the field playing against each other. You get like a good feel early on about some of these prospects, and to see people like finally start recognizing those guys is actually really cool. But for today's video, we have a little mock draft for you guys. Really quick, don't forget the draft guide. Our draft guide is out. The link will be in the description of both of our videos. So if you want to know more about prospects, their combine numbers, strengths, weaknesses, pro projections, all of that good stuff, we are still adding to it as we speak, more and more players, especially guys in the trenches. We've done a lot of running backs, wide receivers, safeties, linebackers, guys like that. So more and more players. If you want to go check that out, it'll be down in the description. For today's mock draft in round one, me and you hashed this out before the show today. If you want to share who we selected in the first round, we'll just go back and forth on the player, why we chose them, and how they fit the Cowboys.
Yeah, I think what we wanted to do with this one, guys, is we wanted to give you guys a deep dive. So no mock draft simulator. We literally pre-show, actually earlier in the day, said, let's give these guys and our fans and our supporters as much information about each pick as possible. Prepare them for, if this pick happens, why it makes sense. And for pick number 1, pick 12, the Cowboys drafted Matthew Golden. Foots, why not Ted McMillan? Listen, guys, these exercises are about us getting the information to you all. And I got to say, there has not been a riser, and it's warranted when it comes to a Matthew Golden. So this isn't a John Ross, hey, he's really fast and he doesn't do football things well. This isn't a Henry Ruggs, hey, he's really fast. And I like Henry Ruggs at Alabama, but he doesn't do football things well. I'll never forget, Daniel Jeremiah early in the process said, and everybody loves DJ, he says, hey, Matthew Golden could end up being the first receiver taken in this class. And all he has done, his ace, he's aced the process. It is what it is. And I want to read you guys something. The fastest 40 of all the receivers, the fastest 10-yard split of all the receivers. So while his teammate Isaiah Bond was looked at as the speedster, this guy really took over the offense at Texas. And it happened towards the end of the year, and it happened in big games. You think about the Georgia game when they were struggling. He was able to make plays. He had a rep versus Arizona where it was a back shoulder a fade, and it wasn't like the cleanest thrown ball. But what was he able to do, Zach? And I'm watching his film at Houston. And what's he doing in Houston? He's returning kicks. He's an end-around guy. He's a speed-out guy. And then you watch the tape at Texas, and he's running digs. He's running down the field. He's running skinny posts. He's running past people. He's running a speed-out. He's running corner routes. He has the full route tree, the full arsenal in his bag. And if you just watch him release, Zach, you could make a cut up of just his releases. He plays with guys at the line of scrimmage. Everything looks the same. He can get to slant. He could get to end breaker. This guy has the full package. And I do see a lot of Antonio Brown. I do see a lot of Malik Neighbors. I do see a lot of Zay Flowers. That shorter 6 foot athlete that can run every route, that doesn't get tired, that's in great shape. And I just see a guy who, how does he help the Cowboys? He helps the Cowboys because what has this team wanted for the longest? Obviously, Ted is a special player. And I think there will be people in the comments who say, Foots, there's no way you're flip-flopping on Ted. No, I love Ted. But for this exercise, we have to think about this. The Cowboys have wanted speed. Love Kevontae Turpin. He doesn't have the receiver chops of a Matthew Golden. When you put 4.29 on that fast track in Indianapolis, now I got to think of you as, if nothing else, day one, you can come in and run past people too, and you have great receiver film. Matthew Golden, pick number 1, Zach.
And you covered a lot of the great things about his game. And going into the year, Isaiah Bond was supposed to be that guy. He was going to be the receiver that we're talking about in the first round, early second round. But Matthew Golden was a late bloomer, you could say. Now he performs well at the combine, runs a 4.29. He's just, like you said, he's super smooth. He's a really good athlete, makes some crazy catches. And the Antonio Brown comp just makes so much sense.
Yeah.
He's a football player. Like, you can watch this guy play and you're like, oh, he's an NFL wide receiver. But I think playing for the Cowboys, the good thing about him is he doesn't have to come in and be a wide receiver one. He has CD on the opposite side of him. He's not going to be asked to be the number one target right out of the gate. He has time, but he does come in and help your offense as a wide receiver too. And then the hope is that one day he's a 1A, 1B with Lamb. And then finally, you have weapons on offense. Hopefully Jake Ferguson gets back to where he was in 2023. So I love the Matthew Golden pick. I think people are going to be slower to get to that because we've heard Ted McMillan, we've heard Luther Burden, we've heard different names. But with Matthew Golden, as well as he performed at the combine and what he's put on film, he's on my radar at 12. So let's go on to round 2. And when we were talking about this mock after the Golden pick, I told you I wanted to get a running back. At pick 44, Ashton Jeanty, he's not going to be there. Omarion Hampton, he's not going to be there. If you have Hampton making it to 44 in your mock drafts, rip it up, start over, restart your browser, whatever. Caleb Johnson probably won't be there at 44 either. And as deep as this running back class is, I still just can't get off the idea that there's a couple of guys that kind of stick out in that upper echelon, like a Jeanty, a Hampton, a Johnson, and then you have Judkins, Henderson, guys like that. So in round 2, that's why I decided to go with Quinshon Judkins, running back, Ohio State. With Judkins, when you watch this guy at 6'1" or 6'1.5" at 221 pounds, the way his feet move, the explosiveness in short areas, the strength, and he really came on strong at the end of the year with Henderson as well. Henderson had a great end of the year too. Maybe the long speed holds him back from being that 1, 2, 3 in this class with Hampton and Jeanty. But with Judkins, I think you're going to look at the size, you're going to look at the foot speed, the agility, and say you have your running back 1. If you want to pair him with somebody, that can be the plan later. Or you sign somebody in free agency, pair him with that, then you kind of have that Ohio State 1-2 punch. But I took Judkins. I think he's in that, not with Hampton, not with Johnson and Jeanty, but kind of right there at it. And I think if you want your running back like that, round 2 would be it.
The interesting thing about Judkins was at Ole Miss, right? I thought of him as like this great creator, and I think he does have some of that in his bag. I think what happened was when you saw him next to Henderson, it was clear that Henderson had more speed, a little bit of a better creator. But I got to tell you, as good as Henderson was in the playoff, so was Judkins, especially in the championship game. I mean, he was awesome versus Notre Dame. You think about down the goal line versus Tennessee, he made big plays. He made tough runs. I like Quinshon Judkins. And I think he's the last of that tier that could come in day one and probably take the job if Rico comes back. If not, and you sign a guy, you know that it would be 1-2 with that 2 being Judkins, eventually being your 1, and you will feel good about it. He has an NFL body, like you mentioned, at 221. And the athletic testing was pretty decent. I mean, I think he was a sub 4 guy or 4.4.
He was sub 4.5. He was like
so
4.45.
So yeah, I mean that's fast enough. And even the guy like Caleb Johnson who ran sub 4.57, his football speed is fast enough. Judkins' football speed is fast enough. Now he's not electric, i.e. Henderson or Jeanty, but down in and down out, he can create enough. He can run through your face. I think that he brings an attitude to this run game where that's the last back that has everything that you would want: size, speed, creativity. So I think if you thought that you were going to be able to wait and get him maybe in the 3rd, that's not going to happen. You would have to draft him at 44. So I like the pick, Zach.
Really quick, guys, before we continue, I have to tell you about today's sponsor, BetUS. I know that the NFL season is over, but that doesn't mean the action stops. Whether it's the NBA, college hoops, UFC, or even NFL futures for the 2025 season, BetUS has you covered. They have been America's favorite sportsbook for over 30 years, and right now they're giving you a massive bonus when you sign up. 150% deposit match on your first and 125% 25% match on your next two. That will allow you to bet on playoff basketball, fight nights that are coming up, March Madness, or even early Super Bowl odds for next season. I mean, there's always something to cash in on. You think the Cowboys are going to win the NFC East next year, which is totally a possibility? You can lock that in now. So head over to BetUS, claim your 150% and your 125% deposit bonus, and get started today. I wanted to say thank you to BetUS for not only helping me, but allowing people to not just sit and wait for next season, but to stay in the game. BetUS, where the game begins. So we get to round 3, and we decided on a guy that really stood out to us at the Senior Bowl. Day one, we hadn't been there 15 minutes, and that is Joshua Farmer, the defensive tackle from Florida State, in the 3rd round.
So Josh Farmer is really interesting because you guys should be familiar with that name if you watch me and Zach and you've followed this journey. From the moment the first D-line drills, who's this Florida State kid? And I'll be honest, I didn't know who he was. Listen, we're trying to get all these prospects in. We're trying to get you guys information. And in a deep D-line class, this is the one that feels realistic because there's so many guys. We don't know who's going to go where. We don't know if there's going to be a run. And let's say there's a run on receiver. Let's say there's a run on tight end and it pushes some of these D linemen back. You could end up with a guy like Farmer staring you in the 3rd round, and I take him over some of these linebackers and even over these corners. Let's talk about him. 80 career tackles, 30 tackles for loss. That's what I saw at the Senior Bowl right there over his career. Now, he jumped on the scene, Zach. I was doing some research. He jumped on the scene last year. So on that line with Jared Verse and Braden Fisk, he had like 7 or 8 tackles for loss. So he was in the game as well. Like he wasn't just, a rotational guy. He was making plays. And he's a 3-tech through and through. He has a great push-pull, just a very active guy, high motor, amazing first step. And if you watched his drill work, everything checks out. Now, is he going to be your one tech, your one stopper? No, but he's active versus the run. That's the difference. He really is Oso Odighizuwa, who it's been reported that Cowboys do want to bring him back. That would not stop me from drafting a guy like Farmer, because if you can have as many good, active D linemen, sign me up. Go watch his figure 8 drill. All my fans on here, all my draft community, go watch his figure 8 drill. The way he's able to turn, he's able to bend. As a D tackle, that's what you want. Loose hips, great hands. He doesn't look clunky. He looks very coordinated, and it shows. He's a defensive lineman who has a plan. I really, really like Josh Farmer at pick. What pick would that be? 176, whatever the pick is, 3rd round. I like Josh Farmer.
It was the first name that we pointed out when we got to the Senior Bowl. He was bullying some of those interior guys, especially in the one-on-one drills. Yes. Just the power, the hands when he hits guys. There were some when they were running teams, like he was knifing into the backfield, like you said, 30 tackles for loss during his career at Florida State. Joshua Farmer is a top 41 player on Daniel Jeremiah's board right now. Other places I don't even think PFF has him on their big board.
And that's the D-line class, right?
Exactly. That just speaks to the D-line class. How many names? And Joshua Farmer in the 3rd round. And like Foot said, you probably heard the name if you watched us talk about it, but it kind of feels like a steal based on what we've seen from him. So round 3, Joshua Farmer. Round 4, Cowboys are have to sit around and wait for a little bit unless something happens between now and night 3 of the draft. So we head on to round 5, and that was Quincy Riley. We've seen reports about Jordan Lewis coming back. Deron Bland obviously had the injury last year. Trayvon Diggs, we don't know anything about him going forward with his injury, rehab, all of that stuff. So a guy that was sitting there that we really liked, once again, from the Senior Bowl. When we were at the Senior Bowl, we talked about how much it mattered, these guys getting out there and competing. And Quincy Riley was great. His 2023 season was better than his 2024, and that might cause him to maybe slip into the 5th round where you can get a guy that we like so much. And what I really liked about him down in Mobile was his ability to mirror guys. He could flip his hips. He runs really well. The recovery speed is good. He turns his head, locates the ball. Like it looks natural to him. And going into the league, some of these corners, they can't do that. They get handsy. The ball's in the air. They start grabbing, tugging, pulling on guys. Quincy Riley didn't do that. He looked comfortable, and I think there's a chance that he could play in the nickel too. Like, he could play inside or outside. I think he moves that well. With the Cowboys, the question marks around the cornerback position with Diggs, with Bland, with Lewis, I think you got to go find a corner. Quincy Riley was the pick in the 5th round.
I think when we were at the Senior Bowl, we said this, Zach. We said we like Maxwell Harrison the most at the DB spot. You know, guys like Darian Porter, he's going to fly aboard, but I'll be honest, even with his 40, and you got to watch the tape, I wasn't that impressed. So this is what we mean by do surgery, do the homework on some of these guys, because when you watched him at the Senior Bowl, he struggled to turn. And outside of that Iowa game with Porter, you know, yes, he had the big numbers in that Iowa game, but the tape just isn't that clean. But with Quincy Riley, the tape is clean. The only issue I would probably say was his size, but he battled well. He is a scrappy corner, and he just looks like he has more juice than Kalen Carson. We don't know what's going to happen with Diggs. If you guys have been on my channel, you know I went live yesterday and just kind of talked about some of these reports. I think that there's life to it. And the truth of the matter is, there's not a doubt in my mind that Trevon Diggs will not start the season healthy. I just don't see that coming, especially the way that the Cowboys like to bring guys back. They're not going to just have him out there and just say, hey, go, especially if he's already been reported not to attack his rehab a certain way. So all that out the way, Quincy Riley, that makes a lot of sense to me, Zach, and I would love that pick. Again, somebody who, if you've been watching us, we've told you this guy, and he did some nice things at the combine. All right, it's on me, Zach, and the Cowboys reported that they are, and when the Cowboys, Stephen Jones said out his mouth, we want to get younger at quarterback. With the 5th round pick, I don't know what number we are, but with our second 5th round pick, Zach, I went Riley Leonard. Foots, what about Quinn Ewers? Foots, what about Jalen Milroe, whoever may follow? What? I went Riley Leonard. For whatever reason, Zach, I just like him. I just like this guy. I think he's scrappy. I think he runs well. I thought the Georgia game showed a lot. They're running QB power. He's not scared. He's not backing down. I thought that he played well enough versus Ohio State. To me, this guy doesn't have a big arm, but he has nice size. But I think if he came in and played behind Dak, the issue with Cooper Rush is he has no creativity, and his arm is just decent. He'll throw the ball in a double coverage to do some of that stuff. I think with Riley Leonard, he has a little bit of creativity, some running juice, some running chops, and the arm is good enough. And he's a winner. He transferred it from Duke. He got that Notre Dame program over the hump. They were in the national championship. He did do that. They didn't have many receivers. Yes, they had Love in the backfield. But to me, I just like his vibe. And I think that if he could come in, sit, learn behind Dak, you never know what could happen. And we got to be honest, Dak has had some injuries, and you don't want another season derailed. I would like Riley Leonard in the 5th round, Zach.
At this point, getting a quarterback in the 5th round, they're all going to have their lumps. There's going to be things that you don't like about this quarterback or this quarterback. That's the truth with first round quarterbacks. But with Riley Leonard, some of the athletic things that he can do outside the pocket maybe give him a chance that if he had to play, that he can stay ahead of the sticks. He's not taking sacks like Cooper Rush, where he's not in 2nd and 18 because he literally cannot move out of the pocket. Maybe Riley Leonard, until he can get further along, learn the system, all of those things, maybe running the ball gives him a little bit of flexibility to make mistakes, kind of like we saw with Dak coming out of Mississippi State. True. At the end of the day, it's a 5th round quarterback. It's a dartboard throw, 100 yards downfield. Like, you just never know. So on to our 3rd 5th round pick. Feels like the Cowboys have a million this year. I went with Junior Tafuna from Utah, the defensive tackle.
Love the pick.
With Tafuna, he is going to be an early down player, a guy that's better against the run. And the thing with him is he's a good athlete. He's got good feet. He moves extremely well at the line of scrimmage, like horizontally. He can fly through gaps. He actually had a sack in the Senior Bowl game. Now, he was at the Senior Bowl, but there were so many prospects out there. We're trying to watch both sides of the field, all of that stuff. But he did have a sack in the Senior Bowl game. It's something that he's going to have to develop a little bit. The pass rush moves do need development. But if you're looking for a guy that can get north and south, play side to side, play the run, Tafuna can do that. And I think you just got to throw bodies at the defensive tackle position. And the Cowboys, we know in these later rounds, they like to bet on athleticism. A guy that was top 10 in the 40, top 10 in the bench press, like not necessarily an athletic freak, but he does have some athleticism for the position.
And I think what you just said, I think 2 positions, maybe even 3 positions that the Cowboys could double down on: running back, D tackle, corner. If they, in the 7th round, see another corner that they like, and just throwing bodies at that position, because we don't know what's going to happen with Diggs, but we also don't know what's going to happen with Golston. We think that Osa's coming back, but we want him to. And then we also want to see Mozzie take that next step. So I like that pick a lot, Zach. And I think that for a 5-rounder to be able to get Matthew Golden and then get a guy like Josh Farmer and get that type of value, and then obviously, you're expecting that 2nd round to really hit with Judkins. I would love this draft if this happened. There's going to be questions in the comments about why not Ted McMillan. I just got to tell you, if you have a guy who is now being comped to Chris Olave, is being comped to Garrett Wilson, and you already have CD, who is run after the catch guy. CD's a complete top 5 receiver.
Yep.
So if you have a guy who can be your route runner, stretch the field guy early on, man, sign me up, Zach. And I think that that's going to probably be the biggest question for people in this mock. And remember, if there's something that you guys will want to do, drop it in the comments. But for me, I feel like this is the most realistic we could get directly after the combine with no real new breaking news.
I really like it too, especially Golden at 12, getting CD a running mate, helping this offense. Joshua Farmer, like you said, that's our guy that we've already stamped that. So if he's bad, we never said that. We don't even know Joshua Farmer. We don't know who he is. But
he works on the farm. Yeah. No.
Yeah. We don't know. Like Foot said, if you have ideas, if you would have taken someone else, or if you think the value here or there, share it down below in the comments. And don't forget about the draft guide as well. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, leave a like, subscribe to the channel.